The following lectures are from the archives of the Thomas Merton Center in Louisville, Kentucky. Given in the middle 1960s at Gethsemane, these were for the young men studying to be Trappist monks. They were recorded to be shared with the other monks. Most of the talks were lectures. A few have some dialogue with the students. The next voice you hear will be that of Thomas Merton.
All material matter. I mean, the towels apparently are disappearing too fast. I don't mean now that they're taken away or anything, but I mean they go too fast, right? And we apparently have enough given at the beginning of the week. So the best way to handle a towel situation is to start with ex-novices, don't laugh, please. Start with two, see? And instead of throwing one into the basket every time you take a shower, have two towels and then put one on the line. I mean, when you take a shower, you get one good and wet, and then the other one you sort of, the last finishing job, you dry yourself off, and then the second one isn't too wet. Put the wet one on the line and dry it out. So then you've always got one towel dry and another one maybe on the line if necessary, and you throw about one in the basket a week or two in the basket a week, something like that. I mean, the thing is that those towels are getting completely used up just being washed, see. I mean, you take a shower and you dry yourself once with the towel, which uses it up a tiny little bit, and then you send it to the laundry and it gets used up real good getting washed, and then it comes back and you use it just one little bit again. So I think there are ways and means of handling the situation. Well, now this is going to tie in with that. Of course, I got a lot of interesting stuff tucked away here, but I got to get down to some main points. What is the perfection of the monastic ideal? How did they do it? What was their approach? I mean, how did they go about this business of saying how you live the monastic life? What did they do? Anybody? Brother Timothy? They went and lived it, and then they went and watched they said, how has it been lived? See? And then they always came up. I mean, for example, in these Desert Fathers stories that we got there, somebody comes to St. Anthony and says, what am I going to do? He says, don't ask me. He says, I'll tell you three ways that people have done it. One did this, and another one did this, and another one did that. You go try that, or I'll try something else. See? This is the way the monks have approached the thing. See? It's, in other words, you go into the possibilities that exist. And that's absolutely the only way to do it. And we are here and everywhere, although here less than most places, pretty much stymied by this business, you see, of being face to face with an idea, and all the time butting our heads against the idea, and never making any kind of a junction between the idea and the reality, see, and not starting with the reality, not respecting the reality. The way it usually goes is this. We ask ourselves the question, what is God's will? And we ask it wrong. See, we don't ask that question as Christians. See, we ask that question as pagans. That means to say, we are really asking, when we ask what is God's will, we are asking what is my fate? See, this is the way we habitually ask ourselves the question, what is God's will? In other words, we assume that God's will is something that's predetermined. See, that God has sat up there in heaven in a little secret office. See, and he reached to the filing cabinet, he pulled out the file, and he looks in and said, Alfred. Said, Archangel Michael, come over here. What's the plan for Alfred? And Archangel Michael, and my Lord said, they get together, and here's this secret plan. See. And then Alcuin, who doesn't even exist yet, see, he's born. And he comes into life, and he reaches the age of reason, and then he says, I've got to find out the plan. See? And so this is the way we all do. And we spend our life looking for this secret plan, which we can't possibly find out. We try all sorts of gimmicks for finding out the secret plan, see. So we go to somebody with a magic answer. And we say, well, now the authorities of the church, they've got a magic answer. They know God's plan. Or if they don't, I mean, he's fitted them into the plan in some such way so that they're oracles, see. And you go to somebody, and you ask him, what is God's will for me? And with utmost profundity, he looks at you and says, you are to be a Brigittine. You are to be the first of the Brigittine branch of men. See? And you're, all right, you're a woman hater and all that sort of thing. You're absolutely allergic to femininity. See? You never got along with your mother or sisters. And you say, oh, Lord, this must be it, all right, because that's what I hate most in the world. But this is absolutely arbitrary. See, this isn't the way life is supposed to be. God's will, I mean, when it comes to the Ten Commandments, it is determined beforehand. See, there are certain things that are determined beforehand. That thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and those are the various things like, all right, thou shalt not, and thou shalt, this and that. But when it comes to contingent affairs, where there's a matter of choice, what is God's will? And how do you find out God's will? For, I mean, all right, you do consult somebody, but not as an oracle. How do you determine God's will in matters of vocation? It's the question of freedom. See, God has given us, in the pagan situation, you look for fate. So you get a sheep, and you kill him, and you cut him open, and you look at the entrails, and you get an expert in entrail examination, and he looks at it and says, gives you an ambiguous answer. You put the comma in the wrong place, and then afterwards, if it comes out wrong, you go, and he says, I didn't mean that. That comma shouldn't have been in there. That was your fault. See, a Christian is free. And the will of God in the life of a Christian is the work of the Christian and God working together, both freely. This is the work of two freedoms working together. So that your vocation isn't something that's in a filing cabinet in heaven that is kept secret from you and then sort of whipped out at the last judgment and say, you missed, buddy. You didn't guess right. But what it is, your vocation is, or anything in life, is an invitation on the part of God, which you're not supposed to guess, and you're not supposed to figure out. It's something that you work out by free response. And what are the indications of the invitation? See, you have to take them in their existential facts. They're there or they aren't. See, in other words, what happens is you judge by the concrete facts, the realities that you run up against in life. See. And these things are manifestations of what God has planned, of the manifestation of his whole idea, which isn't a plan beforehand so much either. Because we talk as if God had this, God really, from a certain point of view, has no plan, in the sense of a plan beforehand, because there's no before and after with God. He works it out as he goes along, see, except that it's all one with him. There's no past, present, and future with it, see. We think in terms of having a plan and working it out, because that's the human way of looking at it. And when a wise human being normally thinks before he acts, and there's nothing wrong with that. See, I'm not saying that you're not supposed to think. See, this question of an inexorable will completely determined beforehand, which we have to meet up to, is the idea not of God's will, but of fate. See, God's will is free, and our will is free. And God is inscrutable insofar as he's free, because nobody knows how a free person, you don't even know how your brother's going to act with his freedom. So, of course, you don't know how God's going to act either with his freedom. What do you do about that? Do you have to know beforehand what God is going to do with his freedom? Where do you fit that in? I mean, supposing he suddenly decides to blast you with a thunderbolt or something. If he wants to, why can't? What about it? No. For faith and where love and hope, where the theological virtues come in. And there you put the thing on a completely different plane, see. The theological virtues deal with persons and not with essences, see. When you're dealing with essences, you're dealing with what is fixed beforehand. When you're dealing with persons, you're dealing with what's free. So when it comes to faith, hope, and love, you accept God as one who loves you freely, and you trust his love, see. And you trust that his freedom is going to be the freedom of one who loves. And you trust love. And it's a totally different dimension. And when you've got, you don't ask love to guarantee its plans for the next 500 years. See? Love is love. And you let it be love, that's all.